Mr. Hardy, how are you this
All
morning?
right. I'm very good. How are you this morning?
We're doing all right. What would you like for us to call you?
Matt is perfectly acceptable. Thank you.
Okay. We didn't know if you wanted Matt, Mr. Hardy.
No, Matt is great.
Okay. Matt, I'll tell you about Steven and I real quick. We're a storytelling show. We have fun here. When we record, if we ask you a question, you don't want to answer it, feel free to skip it. We are not gotcha media. We do have fun. And if you feel like getting long-winded on a story, absolutely feel free to get long-winded and go as long as you want.
Sounds good. I am sitting here with my oldest son as well. He had a small role in that video game commercial that was just released today. And he actually was also in our cinematic match that we had here at the Hardy compound, the firm deletion. So he wanted to pop in and sit in on one of these. So He's getting to that age where I was going to allow him to join us.
Perfect.
And we also want you to be the funniest and smartest guy in the room. So if there's a story that you enjoy telling or you get a lot of laughs out of, let us know. We'll set up the question. You can knock it down.
Do you want me to?
Welcome back inside our last segment right here on Tide 100.9. Hope all is well with you guys. And we have a very special guest joining us today. He is a 14-time World Tag Team Champion, WWE World Tag Team Champion with his brother Jeff Hardy, WWE Raw Tag Team Champion 3 times with Jeff Hardy, MVP, and Matt Wyatt, and of course the ECW Champion, and now he is with AEW. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us welcome to the Stingray Show, Mr. Matt Hardy. Matt, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very good this morning. I am a little up north from you guys. I'm here in North Carolina at my home, Cameron, North Carolina, on the Hardy compound, but it's a lovely morning. I'm sitting here with my oldest son, Maxwell, and he's just kind of taking all this in, but I'm very excited to be coming down to Huntsville, Alabama very, very shortly.
So if you don't mind going ahead and tell all of our listeners about the event that y'all have coming up there in Huntsville.
Yeah, we are going to be there on Saturday, and it's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited that All Elite Wrestling AEW, they are now performing house shows, and this is called like a house rules event. And the thing that's so cool about these shows, I feel like if you're a wrestling fan, these are the best shows to go to because it's laid back. It's not television. There's not a like tight time constraint where you have to be in and out of the ring in 8 minutes and you're focused on the match more than anything else. These events are very interactive. You know, not only do we get to go out and wrestle and have an amazing match, well, we're not on a crunch for time, and we also get to interact with the crowd. We get to have fun with the crowd, and the bad guys make the crowd want to boo them. The good guys make the crowds want to cheer them, and the crowds get to play along with a lot of the taunts and whatnot. So these are the funnest events to go to as a wrestling fan, in my opinion.
So, Matt, a quick follow-up to that. You actually had a little bit of an announcement that you put out about AEW, a wrestling game. Going ahead and let all of our listeners know about that as well.
Yeah, it was very cool. I felt very honored to be asked to take part of this commercial that I was in this morning. And we actually announced that if you pre-order AEW Fight Forever, not only do you get Matt Hardy of the Hardy Boyz, but you also get Broken Matt Hardy. There's 2 different versions of me. And in the commercial, I'm kind of speaking and interacting with myself in that commercial. It's very, very neat. And at the very end, the second generation of the Hardy Boyz had one little quick spot that you could check out. And that's my son, Maxwell. He's sitting here. He was very proud to be part of the video game. But it's such an amazing game. They've worked so hard on this. It's been like in work for probably 2 years now, 3 years. And they've done a lot of amazing work. Kenny Omega specifically worked very hard on this game. I feel like this video game to wrestling fans is going to be a throwback to like the old school days of wrestling games, like No Mercy specifically. And I'm very honored to be part of the game and also have 2 character options to choose in the game.
Very cool. Matt, I grew up outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Jerry Lawler, of course, is the king of Memphis. It's not Elvis. A lot of people think Elvis is the king of Memphis. He's not. It's Jerry Lawler.
Right.
But who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
My favorite wrestler growing up was Macho Man Randy Savage.
Yeah,
he's the guy that got me hooked in, and he was the first representation of me to like a larger than life living, breathing superhero. He had this over the top character. He had that raspy voice. Oh yeah, you know. And then his finisher was an elbow drop, a flying elbow drop off the top rope, which a lot of guys didn't go off the top rope at that time. So that was very appealing to my brother and I when we were young.
You got any good Jerry Lawler stories for us?
I've got a bunch I've got a bunch of amazing Jerry Lawler stories. One of my favorites is we were in Cleveland, which is a huge town of his because he's a big Cleveland sports fan.
Oh yeah,
Not
huge
sure if
Cleveland
you're
Browns
aware
fan.
of
Yeah.
that or not. But we were in a battle royal and I was like working him over and he said, "Come on, lay it in, kid." He said, "If you're scared, say you're scared," which was so great. It was great motivating factor for that was in a 1998 too. That was a very young Matt Hardy who's in there working with a legend at the time, the King Jerry Lawler, but he was, kind of reconfirming, just lay it in and treat him like anybody else.
Yes. So you played linebacker and defensive end in high school, but you didn't play in college. What made you decide to not pursue playing college football?
Well, in all honesty, I did play in high school, but baseball was my jam.
All
Baseball I
right.
was really good at. I may could have tried to pursue baseball a little bit further, but like once that wrestling bug bit me, that's all I wanted to do. And I really kind of set my goal on that. I actually went to school. I was in the UNC system. I went to UNC Charlotte, and I ended up getting an associate's degree in civil engineering. And I decided to step out and take a break from college to pursue wrestling. And I think fortunately it worked out because I'm here 31 years later, still doing this insane industry.
Well, now I've got to ask, what did you want to do with that civil engineering degree?
I was very good at math. Math was my specialty as opposed to English in school. So I was very much into like building bridges and constructing things and being an architect. So I was going to build things. So if I wasn't a pro wrestler, I would have probably ended up being a civil engineer.
The number one job in America for millionaires, civil engineer. Well, we'll skip that one today, though.
Well, there you have it. I had to go another route to be a millionaire, but it still worked out.
There you go, man. I got a fun question for you. What's a storyline that you wanted to do and you thought was a great idea and they told you no?
I really don't necessarily have a storyline that I had wanted to do that I didn't try or attempt that had never happened before. So in reality, that's never happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So I anything I've ever wanted to do or want to attempt to do, I've thrown it out there and tried to push it into existence. And I've either made it work and become successful, which was the character with like the Matt Hardy version, one thing, or, it didn't work. And then I changed directions and did something different.
Okay.
On July the 5th of 1999, you and Jeff, known as the Hardy Boyz, defeated the APA, which consisted of Ron Simmons and JBL, to become the WWF Tag Team Champions. Please describe that match and especially what it was like to win the tag team titles for the first time.
That was a really big deal for my brother and I, because not only was it us like achieving our whole goal, our whole reason for getting into the pro wrestling industry is we wanted to be the world tag team champions one time. And if we did it one time, then we'd achieved our goal. And obviously, as you said in that announcement, I've done major world tag team titles 14 times. So, and we've won major world titles and singles titles also. Right. So that was a big deal. And it also happened in Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is the closest big city to my home where I live. So that's like 30 minutes away. So one of the funny things about that is we'd been smartened up about 9 or 10 days before the event took place. That was Vince McMahon's idea. And he wanted to put the titles on us. And they didn't tell the acolytes until the night before because they were so concerned they were going to shoot it down and not go through with the whole title change and whatnot. But Vince really, he had a lot of faith in myself and Jeff. He saw a lot of potential in myself and my brother. And he wanted to give us an opportunity to kind of give us the titles, to give us a little bit of a rub, to kind of build us in the stars. And I'm very grateful and appreciative of that. And I got to tell you, the APA, they were two rough and tough characters. They beat the hell out of us that night. They made us earn it for sure. But still, once we got through that match and we won the tag team titles, it was all good. And I'll never forget going with my family and all my friends. We went ate at Ruby Tuesdays that night, myself and Jeff, like a bunch of wrestling fans. We wore the titles into the restaurant that night to begin with, just to celebrate. It was so amazing.
Nice. Matt, fun question. You're coming to do the house show here in Huntsville here shortly. But what are some arenas that you kind of stepped into and like, wow, I'm here? Or a place that you've always wanted to go to, or somewhere that you've never been and you went to and you're like, I really like this place. Where's those places for you?
Well, the first place I would say, which was a big deal to go to, was Madison Square Garden, right?
Yeah, we hear
So
it
I
all
got
the
to
time.
wrestle there. It was, kind of known as the Mecca in many, many ways, especially for pro wrestling. And like once I went there, my first time, I got to wrestle there early in 1998.
Mhm.
And then I got in there, I wrestled and I did it. And I was like, okay, well, I've checked it off my bucket list. Like just getting into New York, dealing with the traffic, dealing with the parking, dealing with the fans is like, this isn't quite what it's cracked up to be. It's very cool. It's an iconic building, but it's very tough from a work position to actually get in and get out of there. But that was a very cool deal. I remember the first time I wrestled in Seattle. That was a big deal to me because I was a big fan of the Space Needle, and I just thought Seattle was just so far away from where I was. Obviously,
Right.
it's a place that is coming up that I'm very excited to wrestle in, which I'll shout out. We have August 27th. We're going to be in the stadium at Wembley, over in
Nice.
London, and I've never wrestled in that venue, so I'm very excited about that. That's a thing to check off the bucket list. And AEW is doing amazing. We've sold almost 70,000 tickets there, which a lot of people didn't think we could do that, but that shows the power of the AEW brand in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So later in 1999 at No Mercy, the Hardy Boys defeated Edge and Christian in the first ever tag team ladder match. How grueling of a match was that?
That match was incredibly grueling. And that was obviously, that's where all the bedlam began for the TLC madness, tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my.
Mm-hmm.
That's the match that actually put us on the map. We went from being just WWE wrestlers to WWE superstars. And I'll forever be grateful to be able to work with Christian Cage and Edge, and Christian Cage, who is in AEW now and still one of our top stars. And once again, in a role like myself and Jeff, kind of veterans that are working with younger guys to help establish them and get them over and give them all the rub that we can, because we've been blessed with 25, 30 years of major TV time. That match is what turned the corner for us, and that's what started the whole ladder match craze. And then we ended up creating the TLC match along with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, which ultimately became a staple of pro wrestling, which is pretty amazing and pretty special once you look back at it.
Matt Hardy's our guest here on Todd 100.9. Matt, a fun question for you. What's the craziest or funniest interaction you've ever had with a fan?
This is a good one. You guys are going to enjoy this. So,
all right.
When myself and Jeff, we were with Gangrel, who is a vampire. That is his character, but kind of at that time, he was a little bit of a vampire in real life as well. I mean, he legitimately had the fangs in; they were permanent.
Oh wow!
He still rocks the fangs, and we had just left Michael Hayes. We had joined Gangrel, and we were very goth at that time. And what's funny is, like, my daughter, who is going to be 2 in July, she is over huge right now on my wife's video. My wife is an influencer, a content creator, and she is known as the Gothic Baby. Anyone out there that has Instagram or TikTok, they're aware of who the Gothic Baby is, especially as a fan of goth. So myself and Jeff, we were kind of in a goth role, right, in 1999. And once we were with Gangrel the Vampire, Jeff and I, we were very dark, brooding. I would comb my hair straight down on my face. We were young, good-looking kids. I had a very emo wrestling fan, a female, come up to me and said, "Oh my God, I have been sent a message from the higher power. We are meant to be together." And she gave me 2 vials. She said, "I need you to fill your blood in these vials." She said, "And here's 2 vials of my blood. You take my blood and inject it into your stream. And then when you give me your blood back, I've got my address in there. Send it to me. I'll put it, and then we'll forever be linked." I mean, she literally gave me like a scene out of True Blood, like that she wanted to do, which was incredible.
You'll enjoy this. Bobby the Brain Heenan was on Larry King one time, and Larry King asked him, he goes, "What's the scariest thing about wrestling fans?" He said, "They can vote and they can reproduce." So we all love the Brain. But
oh my God.
With that, wow, that's just insanely crazy. I'm kind of blown. You kind of threw me off my question there. But get back to the Brain.
And I can't believe once I injected her blood into mine, I wasn't connected to her. I never felt her presence again.
You and Charlie Sheen have tiger blood going through your veins, right? So the Brain was absolutely hilarious. Who's the funniest guy in wrestling now? Who's someone you just thoroughly enjoy when they walk in the room or they call you that you just light up? Who's the funniest guy in wrestling?
Dean Malenko is a guy that stands out. He's very funny. Okay. He was just nonstop. And it's so funny because his character often came off very dry or not having a ton of personality. But when you interact with him, he is just hilarious. He is just jokes nonstop.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. With all that, looking back at your career, what's the most fun you ever had?
When I first started doing the whole broken Matt Hardy character, that was the
Okay.
most fun I ever had. It was, the place where I worked at, they were all in on it. I got to do so many shoots here at home, and it worked for our fan base and the audience, and it became like a viral sensation online, throughout the internet. So that was the most fun I ever had, and I was interacting with my family the whole while. My wife played a big role in it. She was Queen Rebecca. My son was King Max. I mean, he was a newborn baby. He was in one of our most famous matches ever, myself and Jeff in the cinematic match, the final deletion. Like, he had a role in that. And my whole motivation behind wanting to win was to make sure that he, was able to become the heir of all of the Hardy compound and all of the Hardy property and all of the Hardy branding and whatnot. It was such a fun time because it was so larger than life and over the top. So enjoyable.
So in July of 2007, you had a very crazy feud with MVP, which included a basketball game, an arm wrestling contest, a chess game, a boxing match with Evander Holyfield, and even a beer drinking contest. How did all of that come about, and what was it like doing each one of those things with MVP, or especially boxing with Holyfield?
That was a wild that was a wild time, and the whole boxing thing was a really wild experiment because initially it was going to be myself and MVP in a boxing match, but MVP, they had discovered a heart condition he had going on, so he was out for health issues. And I remember they told me just a few days before this was going to happen, said, "Oh, we found a replacement for MVP," and I was like, "Oh, okay, who that is?" I figure it's another wrestler, someone on the roster. They said Evander Holyfield, and I was like, "What? Evander Holyfield?" And then we ended up doing that deal, and it was funny when I first met Evander. Very friendly, very cool guy, and I felt very comfortable by doing this, even though obviously I'm a wrestler, and that's what I am good at. That's what I know how to do. He's a boxer, and if we want to go in a boxing match, he would massacre me. Obviously, I am not trained.
He'd massacre almost everybody
in being a pro boxer, right? So Bradshaw, JBL, was doing commentary for one of the matches, and I guess he was out there and he was talking a little bit of trash about Evander, and it came through his dressing room apparently. And then Evander got upset about it, and before we were going to go out there, he wouldn't even look or speak to me, which was crazy. Obviously, I'm going in this boxing match, which I'm hoping I won't get murdered, and he's upset. So we go out there, we do it. It's okay. I make it through. I survive. And then I'll never forget at the very end, Vince McMahon told JBL, he said, "I can't believe you, John." He said, we almost lost Evander. And then JBL said back to Vince, he said, "Are you kidding me, Vince? We almost lost Matt." The fact that he was going to go out and murder me and kill me, because he was so upset over his comments, which was crazy. But that whole feud I had with MVP was so much fun. We had so much input. It was so creative. And it was like a contest of me trying to one-up him always. And it's very reminiscent. It reminds me of my current program that I just had. It kind of came to a close with Ethan Page on AEW programming, because I was trying to help some young guys that I'm mentoring, Private Party, an amazing and phenomenal young tag team in AEW, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. I was trying to help them as he had obtained their contracts. And then he ended up getting my contract too, as I was trying to save them. So then he was like a terrible boss, and I was very defiant. And then I tried to like butter up to him and be his best friend. And then I really convinced him we were best friends, and I tricked him into signing some stuff where I got to have him have a match against someone else where I was out, and then I was able to get out of his contract, and now I have him under contract, and it's going to be very interesting because he's going to be in Huntsville as well. And now wherever myself and my brother goes, Ethan Page has to go there as well. So we'll see. I might make him wrestle 2 or 3 times whenever we come to Huntsville on Saturday.
That's awesome.
You're listening to ESPN Radio, Todd 100.9. Matt Hardy's our guest. Matt, growing up, and becoming a wrestling fan and being able to do this on the big stage, what celebrity have you come across that you felt you were just shocked that they were a wrestling fan?
There's a bunch. Once again, going back to AEW, I'll tell you someone that was very surprising. Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who wrestles for us. I'll never forget how big of a fan his father was. The famous Dylan from 90210. He would come out to LA, but just a huge wrestling fan. And he allowed his son to get into pro wrestling, which is so wild too. It was crazy, especially during the late 90s when wrestling was so hot. All of the people and celebrities that would show up in Los Angeles and LA. Mike Tyson, another guy, a huge fan of wrestling, who's worked with us many times at AEW, who's worked in wrestling many different occasions. There's so many people that are really attracted to pro wrestling because it's such a unique form of entertainment. It's like a unique combination of a live, real-time stuntman out there doing these incredibly athletic things, but then there's comedy and there's drama and there's all kinds of different emotions involved. And at the end of the day, it's storytelling, the good guy versus the bad guy. And it's a lot of fun.
So in 2009 at the Royal Rumble, you turned on your brother Jeff Hardy and took quite a very dark turn in which you claimed to be the reason of all Jeff's recent accidents. How did that all come about, and what was it like feuding with your brother Jeff Hardy?
It came about. We were both, I think the Vince and the bosses at WWE thought we'd done all we could do as a tag team, and they really wanted to give us a run as singles guys and let us see how much we could achieve there. And it was a very fun time. I was the ECW world champion. Jeff was the WWE world champion. And then I ended up turning bad against him, and we're going to see how far we could go in our different directions. And I feel like at that point, it was the best case scenario to have us wrestle against one another because we were seasoned enough and we had enough veteran savvy that we were comfortable enough to work with one another. And we felt like we could make it work. And I think it was pretty good. There was a point that I thought was a little too unreasonable or too unbelievable in the story where my brother's house had burnt down in real life. And Vince actually wanted me to take credit for that. And he lost one of his dogs in that accident as well. So that was pretty tough. But I think that's one thing. I think Matt being jealous of Jeff and his success, I think that's believable when people get behind that and sink their teeth into it. But I think me actually burning his house down and killing his dog was a little too much for that program. But at the end of the day, it was cool because we got to work against each other at WrestleMania, and having a marquee main event against WrestleMania was another thing we got to check off our bucket list. We had Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania 25 in an Extreme Rules match. And that was really, really cool. A very special moment, which I won, by the way. I want to add.
Hey, Jeff, I'm sorry. Hey, Matt, I've got 2 questions left for you, and then we'll let you get out of here. The first one is, at WrestleMania 33, you guys had a surprising return as the Hardy Boyz to the WWE, in which you guys won the Raw Tag Team Championship. What was that return like? Because the crowd went absolutely nuts when the Hardy Boyz music hit.
It was a magical moment. It was really, really special because we had created this broken universe. I was doing Broken Matt Hardy. My brother Jeff Hardy was doing Brother Nero, and we'd created this outside of the WWE. But whenever we came back to this WrestleMania, it was really held on the down low, and it was a great surprise. And people were so legitimately excited, and like people doing the delete motion over and over in the crowd, going nuts, and just the nostalgia behind us returning to WWE and winning the tag team titles. It was a magical moment. It felt almost like a dream sequence in many ways. And for me, it felt very weird going out in front of that sea of humanity because I hadn't been to the building until 20 minutes prior to we go out through the curtain, which is wild. You go out and you haven't seen the crowd, you haven't seen the ramp, and you haven't seen this massive setup. It was a really special, magical moment for me.
And my final question for you is simply this. Whenever your career is completely over with and you retire from professional wrestling, how do you want the name Matt Hardy to be remembered?
Whenever I retire from pro wrestling, I want the name Matt Hardy to be remembered as someone who is one of the most passionate wrestlers ever of all time, someone who really loved what he did, and someone who didn't just do it because it was a money-making business or money-making career. It was something that he truly loved. And, if you feel like you're going to work doing something you love every day, then it's not even a job. It's something you enjoy. And I really do. I love wrestling. I love being at AEW because I am allowed the opportunity to work with a lot of young talent. There's so many amazing young athletes at AEW. I've been working with Hook a lot recently, even All Ego, Ethan Page. I think he has a ton of potential. I think he's going to be great. Jungle Boy is another guy I've got to work with. I've been working with Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy, and Mark Quinn. There's so many young talents that I've been working with. I've been trying to mentor them and also like elevate them as well in their working style and allow them to work on the same level as me, which gives them a rub and hopefully builds them to be, major cornerstones of the AEW wrestling promotion for many, many years to come.
Of those young talent, of all that young talent you just mentioned, or someone that you might think of, who do you think is going to just be a mega star and a legend in this business when it's all said and done?
Well, someone I didn't even mention there. I think Wardlow is going to be a very, very big star. And he's someone who was a huge Hardy's fan as he was growing up. We took a picture together. He had a ladder match at the pay-per-view last Sunday, and he was so proud of it. And it was kind of an homage to the Hardy Boys. And he did a very famous spot that Jeff did back in 2000. And he had some Hardy Boys inspired gear, which was so cool. I think he's got the potential to be a really, really big deal because he's an incredibly attractive, handsome guy. Chicks love him. Guys love him. They think he's cool. He's strong. He's built well. He's also super athletic, super agile. He has all the tools, I think, to be a very big, big deal. And I'll also give some credit to my opposition as well. I think All Ego Ethan Page has the ability to be a really big star. I think he checks all the boxes when it comes to being a great wrestler, having a great character, really being able to stick within the lines of what he's doing. He's a great talker and speaker as well. So there's a few guys at AEW I think can go really, really far and be big deals.
I got two quick questions for you, and I'll let you go. One, who's the easiest and best guy to work with? Who's one guy that you enjoy getting in the ring and working with them?
I mean, probably first and foremost, as much as I dislike him, as much as we've been frenemies over the years, I would probably say Christian Cage. He's a guy that we've always locked horns, or we've either been, on the same side. We've definitely been frenemies. I think we are two guys you can describe our relationship like that. But he's always someone that I've had great chemistry with from day one.
When you were a young wrestler and you were working your way up, what was the wow moment that you're like, man, I am in the same ring wrestling with who? Who was it for you?
I'll tell you one of the big wow moments. So the first ever ladder match that got a lot of publicity and a lot of notoriety was the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels match from WrestleMania. And the very first time that we were allowed the opportunity to go to WWE and work as extras, we walked in and we saw Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels like hanging out, chatting, like, buddying it up. And then a couple of days later, I got to wrestle Razor Ramon. And that was a hugely inspirational match to myself and my brother, obviously, as we took the ladder match to, unprecedented levels following that. Just to get in the ring with him and know that he was a big star and a big deal. That was the first time, like, wow, like I've done something here. I've got a lot further than I ever thought I was going to get. And, it was only up from there. And that was back in 1994. So that was very early on in my 31-year run.
I'll wrap it up with this question. Whether it be in the ring when Undertaker's music hits or anybody, what's that fun moment for you that you knew it was coming, you knew it was going to be a big pop, but you're in the ring waiting and it happened? What was that moment for you where like, man, that was really cool?
Undertaker's a great example. I think anytime I was in the ring and I got to wrestle with Undertaker and when that music hit, it's just different than anything else, just so special. Stone Cold Steve Austin, when the glass would break and you would hear his music and you get to work with him. Those were always great moments. And I think now for me still, it's always cool when I'm in the ring and I'm getting to work with some of the modern day stars, even like I got in the ring in a 6-man with Kenny Omega recently, and that was my first time working with him. And he's just incredibly talented. I think Kenny Omega is one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And I think he's not given the credit he deserves in AEW for being so good. And the Young Bucks, I've known them for a long time, but I think those guys are trailblazers. I think they're groundbreaking innovators, and they've done a lot of things. They're very polarizing to a lot of fans, but they are very special talents, and they'll be talked about so much more greatly when they're gone. Because it's just they're in the present, and we live in a very polarizing society right now.
Oh yeah.
But anytime I'm able to get in the ring with those guys, once again, I have that feeling like these are younger guys that like grew up watching me and they actually were influenced by me, but I still get a very special high and a rush from getting to wrestle with these guys.
So Matt, before we let you go, please tell everybody who may have jumped on this late about the event that is coming up in Huntsville, and of course the video game announcement that you had this morning.
Yeah, I'll start with the video game. AEW Fight Forever. We've officially announced it. It's being released at the very end of June. But if you pre-order the video game, there are a ton of characters, and it's not just me. You don't just get like Hardy Boyz Matt Hardy and Broken Matt Hardy. You also get FTR, Hookhausen. There's several different characters you will get that are very cool. It's an extremely cool bonus and extremely cool motivation to pre-order this game. You can go to my socials. If you go to my Twitter or my Instagram or my Facebook, I have it posted there, laid up. Order this thing ASAP as soon as you can, and you're going to get all these cool extra bonuses, which is going to make your playing experience to be so much more fun. And I can't wait until someone builds a DLC of King Maxwell, my son, who's sitting here right behind me, because we just had the firm deletion, a cinematic match a couple weeks ago here from the Hardy compound, and he did his first ever swanton on the Stokely Hathaway of AEW, which was amazing. And I'm afraid already. These guys, my sons, the wrestling bug has bitten them already. And I just can't wait until I'm retired. I'll just be the wheelman and drive them town to town. They'll make the trips to Tupelo and Huntsville, brother.
There you go.
And then I'll be in Huntsville on this Saturday, and it's going to be a huge show. Myself and Jeff, it is our first house.
Well, Heath, unfortunately, we lost the connection there with Matt Hardy, but once again, they are going to be up there in Huntsville this Saturday for the AEW show up there in the Rocket City. And we really do want to thank Matt Hardy for joining us. And like I said, we apologize for the abrupt cutoff, but, you have to deal with technology, correct?
I think AEW had a pitch clock violation.
Yes.
So yeah, I bet it was a little crazy. Things were going great, and then we had a little counter there on our screen.
Yep.
And we didn't know what happened when it hit 0. But Matt was just talking, and he was going on, and we were enjoying what he was saying, and then boom, he disappeared. So,
right.
But with that, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to get that time with you, and the show in Huntsville coming up.
Yes. And of course, do not forget also, like he was talking about there, the pre-order of the video game. You get I guess you would say, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the crazy Matt Hardy and Broken and the Hardy Boy Matt Hardy.
There you go.
So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We hope that you guys have thoroughly enjoyed it with Heath Hinton for the first 2 segments, and then, of course, Matt Hardy for the last one. Of course, if you missed it, it will always be on the podcast, so make sure you check out the Stingray Show on Spotify. And, guys, a quick scheduling note. Tomorrow night, right here on Tide 100.9. Unfortunately for us, Alabama baseball plays Nichols at 6 o'clock. Therefore, we will not be back here until Monday evening. But once again, we will have another show on Monday evening and all throughout next week as well, right here on Tide 100.9. Heath, before we go, any final thoughts quickly?
Stephen, I would take you so quick in a table, ladders, and chair match. You don't have a chance. You don't have a chance.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a high flyer, man. I'm a luchador.
So, hey, we can talk about that next week because we're out of time, man. So we are
out.